Welcome back to the one and only Go to Work radio show. And as you see, we are talking about the 2024 election, and we have some phenomenal people here today. We have Mr. Hans Johnson, and many of you all are already aware of Reverend Fred Shaw. So today, I'm going to have you all introduce yourselves really quick before we get right to it. So, Mr. Hans Johnson, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you for having me, Nichelle, and it's great to be with you, Reverend Fred. I'm Hans Johnson, president of the East Area Progressive Democrats here in Los Angeles, a grassroots Democratic club that we started from scratch 10 years ago, now with over 1,100 members. We fought wrongdoing in our Democratic Party. We've brought people together who look like the diverse neighborhoods of the greater east side of Los Angeles, and we fought for environmental justice, for open government, for housing for all, an end to sexual harassment and abuses of power in government, and for a police accountability and an end to abuse by public safety at all levels. So we fight for our community's best interest and to make people's lives better. And we do that advocacy not just in policy and in every level of politics, but inside the Democratic Party as well, where we brought dozens and dozens of change-making activists into the party structure to make it better and to live up to its stated values on a whole host of issues.
Excellent. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that. And if I can have you, Reverend Fred Shaw, introduce yourself as well.
Well, I'm the president of the NAACP Inglewood South Bay branch. I'm also on the state of California board over the Children's Task Force. I'm the international spokesperson for the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. I'm involved with a lot of different community organizations and so forth, the Baptist Ministers Conference, the National Action Network, and so forth. I'm an author, and I've been fighting for justice ever since I joined the NAACP at about 16 years old.
Wow. Awesome. And I tell you, today we have some important information to share with you. And so let me first say that it's not scripted, and a disclaimer, anybody vote for, we're not trying to get you to sway any one way. This is just a podcast about 2024 election with some prominent, as you hear, individuals. Absolutely. So, and the first, I want to have Mr. Hans Johnson share what you would like to share.
Well, it's an auspicious day to be back talking with you about the 2024 elections. Today was the day when Vice President Kamala Harris chose a running mate in Governor Tim Walz from Minnesota, someone who has been fighting for teachers, for union rights for years and years, someone whom I met shortly after his election to Congress in 2006 as a veteran of the National Guard, where he served for 24 years as a non-commissioned officer, and someone who has really been working at every level of government from Minnesota on upward to make government more honest and to show that ordinary people not only have a voice, but can actually write policy and change the law and do justice when necessary. Tim Walz is an exciting candidate. I think he electrified the rally in Philadelphia today with the same kind of plain-spoken, homespun public service that we really need in our Democratic Party to activate people, to show that it's not just a party of the powerful or of governance, but it's a party of the people. And as Kamala Harris has been doing since she gained the top spot as the Democratic candidate just 2 weeks ago, officially. So I think just last night at the end of the roll call of convention delegates, I'll be going to the convention next weekend in Chicago, and I am expecting a really electrifying convention that captures the same spirit of the rally today, where Governor Tim Walz was introduced as the running mate for Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. But I also just want to say, we are in a moment of great contrast with a candidate on the right who wants to tear down American democracy, who has committed serious felonies and convicted 34 counts of felony for fraud and wrongdoing, who has committed rape according to the law in New York State, and who has violated every shred of decency and protocol and norm that we've had for American democracy and public service for decades and decades. So we are up against an existential threat to American democracy. We all lived through the costs and the toll of mismanagement of Trump's administration and the nightmare of those 4 years that culminated with urging us to inject bleach and to ignore a deadly threat to our lives, to our families, to our communities in the coronavirus, which we're still reckoning with. And like the virus that he spreads of hate and division, we're still having to deal with that. And so rising above it, building the coalitions to fight and defeat it, that's what I think Democrats are now energized to do. And today was a great step forward in that campaign and towards that victory on November 5th and what that means for Americans in the next administration.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And I look forward to your report. Absolutely. I want to follow that information now. Come on now. So, with that in mind, Reverend Fred Shaw, I know you have something to say and share as well. So, you want to share what you want to share and definitely add to and join in the conversation.
Well, the thing is that first of all, I congratulate Kamala on being a viable candidate. She's going to be the person that comes out of the Democratic Party. It shows the inclusiveness when a female can be running for the top spot. But my thing is I get concerned when I listen to CNN and there's all attacks on Donald Trump, and I listen to Fox and there's all attacks on Kamala Harris. The thing is that based on what they're saying about each other, it makes it hard for you to vote for either one of them. And then there's no outside forces. There's no real independent person to go with. I'm a Democrat. But one of the things about me is I don't get swayed by media. I don't get swayed by everybody's going left and you can't go right. I don't go into all of that. And I know history on both people. If Trump is a racist, he's probably deserved the title. And there's some things that they're saying about Kamala that I will not say and that I do know and I've heard. But, I think, though, in spite of what is going on, the name calling and things like that, and who's saying who is a threat to democracy and all of that, that's politics. We can say that a man is convicted of a crime because he was convicted of a crime. However, we have to look at the things that caused that. We can say that Kamala has done certain things in her past that I'm quite sure she's not proud of. But everybody has done something wrong in their past that they're probably not proud about. So all I'm concerned about, I don't really care who was promiscuous. I don't care whose husband or wife was promiscuous. I don't care about that. I want to know which way are we leading this country and what is it that we're going to do to make sure that this is a great country. It does what it says it's going to do, and that we keep our hands clean in the world stage and make sure that we're not the orchestrators of things that are occurring. That's what's important to me, because but for the grace of God, go me. There goes probably most of anybody listening here today. So I just want to say, though, I want to congratulate her for stepping up and taking the realm and being a choice for women. We saw, my wife was one of them, 44,000 people on her, Black women on her phone call. So, it is an inspiring day.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I can see Hans Johnson, your mind is spinning wheels. What else would you like to add to?
Well, I just want to say, these are not just candidates. These are not just people on a sign. These are not just names on a scroll or a chyron. These are people that I've worked with. These are people who have served our communities. I've worked with Kamala Harris on enacting marriage equality here in California and nationwide. Her election as Attorney General in 2010, which was a very hard-fought election, every vote really mattered in that 2010 election against someone who was not a friend of police or deputy accountability in Steve Cooley. Kamala Harris made a huge difference in the lives of millions of Californians with her election in 2010, not just around restoring a voice of accountability and someone with a frontline experience in progressive prosecution, which is the name of her book, and I think something that we all learned a little bit more about as a result of her trailblazing work in San Francisco that helped bring Prop 14 forward. We all made Prop 47 forward, excuse me. That was the birthplace of the movement for Prop 47 that grew out of some of that work to stop, to decarcerate and to stop arresting and throwing away the key people for nonviolent crimes. So I just want to say that also in 2011 and 2012 and 2013, Kamala Harris took the decisive steps that stopped the abuse of state authority, denying committed same-sex couples recognition under the law. Her move to stop defending Prop 8 in court was decisive to not just California's strategy, but to the national strategy of winning marriage equality. Now we all look back and say, oh, this is a great step forward. We forget about some of the courageous incremental steps that were required in that fight to now make it possible as a result of the Obergefell ruling, which P.S. is still under attack by the vicious homophobes and assailants of civil rights who call themselves Republicans, but yet will go around trying to profess freedom, trying to profess respect for diversity, but are now in the crosshairs, have marriage equality and women's right to choose. And the precedents around the right to choose, the precedents around safe abortion in this country were the legal precedents for respecting privacy and establishing marriage equality and getting the state out of people's sex lives. That was the overturning of sodomy laws, which was a result of Roe v. Wade, which has now been taken away by Republicans. That is on the ballot this election. The restoration of reproductive freedom and the right to safe abortion in federal law is on the ballot right now. So is marriage equality and respect for LGBT peoples and families equality under law in this country. They will not talk about that because they know it's a loser, except when they try to trot out before some right-wing audience like the safe space that has become Fox News for Republican candidates, and now where the defeated former president wants to have a debate because he's too cowardly to get on television and to debate Kamala Harris, which speaks to her efficacy and her rhetorical skill. But that is on the ballot right now. And Kamala Harris, whom I've worked with in fighting for the right to choose, in fighting to keep bigots and violent assailants away from reproductive health clinics, who I've worked with on a series of issues around accountability and civil rights. This is a great candidate for president. And I think we should all be excited about voting for her and to reject and to defeat the dumpster fire that is Donald Trump and J.D. Vance.
All right, now. And with that in mind, I have a question to pose. What do you think about the nominee or the vice president, Mr. Waltz, there, Reverend Shaw?
Well, unfortunately, I never heard of him before today. He seems to have a record that, a lot of people think that he can be a benefit. You make it to governor, somebody liked you, you did something right. So I would, say that her being in Washington, D.C., all the people that was involved in the process, Mr. Shapiro, Kelly in Arizona, well, and if that was the one that they came up with, I would think in this situation, they know something a little bit more than I know. So, but I'd never heard of him. My pick actually was Kelly. That's who I thought should be it. But, I congratulate her on making the pick. The thing is, and again, I back it down to the issues. And one of the things that I'm concerned about with our issues is everything has to push every other side of the coin all the way across the table. I'm not a proponent for abortions. I'm a minister. Okay, my teachings tell me that I shouldn't be for that. I especially don't do it when we're talking about late term, when a baby could survive on its own. My father and his twin brother in 1928 were 2.5 pounds, and they grew up to be 6'2", 230-pound men who could handle themselves and so forth. So, I'm a little concerned. I'm concerned when I know the history of that with Margaret Singer and the intent of Planned Parenthood and abortions at the time. However, I am not one of those people who say, even though I don't agree that it should be used as birth control, I do not agree in the cases the baby's going to be deformed, the mother could die, uh, when a child will have severe illness and stuff. In the case of rape, I do not believe that a mother should have to stay with a child that they have that are in those conditions. Under other circumstances, I don't think a child should be executed because the father decided he doesn't like the mother or anything like that. But I do believe that that is not my choice. It's an individual choice of the woman. I'm just giving my spiritual aspect of it and where I look at it as a minister. So with that, though, I'm not supposed to be the one to judge them. That is something that they get judged on later. And I think politics should not force it either way. If a woman truly has a choice, you shouldn't be pushing it on her. This is your option. This is your option. Just let her decide. And if you decide to get rid of your baby, then that's what you decide. If you decide to keep it, that's what. And I don't think people should be weighing in and making it a fan club. I think it should just be the choice of the individual if that's what we're fighting for. And I think that we got to be careful when we come with laws that make it to where a baby can be born and we just won't prosecute if the baby dies. I mean, you're not saying that it's illegal, but you're not saying that we do anything about it if it happens. So I just want us to bring sanity that balances the being. And let's make the best decisions for people overall and give everybody their rights. And just because you're not screaming and crying does not mean that you're not alive and aware.
Amen and amen. And with that in mind, I know I want to make sure you get an opportunity also to speak on the vice president, what your perspectives are about Mr. Waltz, Mr. Johnson.
Well, I just want to say that some of that rhetoric is disturbing, and some of that is not respectful of individual autonomy or of the civil rights and the self-determination of American women. And I just want to note that some of the things that you stated about late-term abortion are false, and they are that's fueled by disinformation about the reality of access to reproductive care and the percentages of abortions that women actually seek in this country. And unfortunately, the regime of coercion and of disinformation that are spread by crisis pregnancy centers and by people who are interfering in access to affordable and safe and community-based care continues to make abortion less safe and more onerous and more traumatic for women without basic protection in law, which is what Governor Walz has done. You realize that Governor Walz in Minnesota is a hero of the fight for reproductive health care and to respect women's self-determination. He was the first governor to sign state protections for safe abortion and the freedom to choose for Minnesota women after the fall, the takeaway, really, of Roe v. Wade in June of 2022. And that is something that is a badge of honor for Governor Walz, and it's one that he deserves credit for. He also, as a football coach in Minnesota, was the GSA advisor to the Gay Straight Alliance of students in his school. And I think that speaks to the level of trust that vulnerable kids have in someone like him. And he has been a champion for kids across the board. You realize the last year he signed a law in Minnesota to make school meals, breakfasts and lunches, free for all students in Minnesota schools. That is what it means to support life in this country is to make the meals of actual students in public schools free for all students. And that's the kind of leadership with his eye on all of the people who are needing a voice in government to make their lives just a little bit easier, to get the boot heel of discrimination, of disadvantage, a little bit off of their necks. That's the kind of policymaker we need. And I think it's an exciting day that someone with that breadth of experience, someone who is a parent, someone who's been a teacher, someone who's a National Guard member and volunteered to serve, who's the son of a Korean War veteran, who brings that experience and that component or that dimension of public service to this level of public service is very exciting. So for all those reasons, I think this is a really exciting choice and a great combination, and one that all people who care about human rights, healthcare for all, homes for all, and a better country where our basic values are not being subverted on a day-to-day basis like they were during that 4-year nightmare we called the Trump administration, that was concluded by an attack and an insurrection on our government. We can take a breath of fresh air in this choice and what is on the ballot in the 2024 election on November 5th.
All right.
And the sheriff, if I can, I just want to make it clear that I'm not pushing agenda either way. I do have my moral and spiritual choice, but one of the things that people don't know, because you never know people, my grandmother died of a backroom abortion. So I don't have, the same viewpoint on these that everybody else. I do believe women need to be safe when they make certain decisions and things like that. I just want a little bit more thought in the decisions, because just like it was unsafe and it took her life, maybe if she hadn't have went for one in the first place, maybe it wouldn't have took her life. But other than that, I'm not passing judgments. I've said that that's for God to do. I'm just giving my opinion as a minister. What I believe the Bible tells me the stance is supposed to be, and that's what I go with. And I am in disagreement with anybody that thinks that the Bible or any of that is outdated. There are spiritual principles in this universe, but I'm not the person who was to pass judgment on that. And that's at another place and another time.
The false notion that women take the decision to have an abortion lightly is false, it's defamatory, and it's cruel. And I will just tell you that that is the premise for onerous state laws in many states that second guess women and subject them to a gamut of sonograms, of waiting periods, and horrible regimes that put a steeplechase in front of women just to seek basic health care. And do you realize what the consequences of those are? That is exactly the kind of horrible, including fatal outcomes that you profess to oppose. And I just want to say, I grew up in a town where the only clinic where women could access reproductive care was firebombed by hateful extremists who opposed civil rights, who opposed LGBT equality, and who tried to censor books every chance they could in the libraries and in the school classrooms every chance they could. Those people, unfortunately, didn't succeed in taking away the right to choose for Michiganders, where I grew up, but unfortunately they did instill terror in healthcare professionals and in people trying to gain access to reproductive care. That is the legacy that we face in this country, and I just want to note that Planned Parenthood has repudiated Margaret Sanger, so to bring her up to discredit Planned Parenthood or anyone who advocates for safe abortion and reproductive health care for all women is a misnomer, and it's fueled by disinformation. So I just want to be very plain about that. But this is a great day to celebrate a step forward in championing and winning reproductive health care and winning back federal recognition for reproductive rights in this country. I hope we take that step forward together in the election of November 5th.
Right, absolutely. And then in closing, you have some words about the 2024 election, Ms. Shaw.
Well, I would just say that I will everybody process and to vote that a situation where people know who these two presidents are, even if they don't know who the vice presidents are. But I think that if people go out, be honest within their heart, and vote for what is in the best interest of the country, then we should get the person who's in the best interest of the country. Did it freeze up? Well, if the audience can hear me, I don't know if. Oh, there you go. Okay.
I just want to say that democracy is local. Also, we have a vibrant, full ballot of elections and ballot measures here at the local and state level. Also, and that includes races here at City Council in Los Angeles, and a whole deck of ballot measures here in California, one of which includes the chance to take away the damage that Prop 8 in 2008 inflicted on our state constitution. And we can undo that with a yes vote on the ballot this fall. But we have a series of really important elections for Congress. We can flip control of the House of Representatives here in California with some votes in key districts, including in the 27th district here in northern Los Angeles County. Someone who was a pro-insurrectionist vote challenging the 2020 election in Mike Garcia in the 27th district can be defeated. And George Whiteside, someone I know, someone who's a member of our Democratic Club, someone whom we've endorsed, and someone who spent his time in Washington at NASA and out here trying to build jobs in space and technology and make it inclusive for girls and career paths for women and girls of equal measure as it has been for many generations of men. That's an incredibly exciting candidacy and a chance to elect someone much more aligned with the human rights, healthcare, and homes for all agenda in this election than Mike Garcia in the 27th district in Lancaster, Palmdale, and the Antelope Valley part of Los Angeles County.
And I agree with him wholeheartedly that everybody has to look at all of the issues, because each step in the process strengthens another step in the process. And if you get the right people over here in Congress, then that can compact people who are maybe not the right people in the Senate. There's different ways that we have balances in the United States that's different from other countries. I also want to say to the people that learn the issues, decide for yourself. Don't let me or anybody else sway you. I remember a time when we had a law change. I was part of a group with the Citizens Commission on Human Rights. We got federal law changed. And it said that parents could not be forced to put their kids on psychiatric drugs as a condition for being in school. That would not have happened if it wasn't bipartisan support. Because it was the NAACP that was involved, the Democrats got involved. Because the Citizens Commission on Human Rights knew certain Congress people and lobbyists, the Republicans got involved, and we were able to protect parents' rights. The question that we want to ask people, if an 8-year-old is asked, you think if an 8-year-old has the right to buy a gun? And most of us would say no. We would be asking people, do you think a 8-year-old has the right to smoke dope? And most people would say no. So, but we give him the right, or we're trying to lean that way when it comes to sex change, gender, things like that. I know that some of these things are just in the making. Some of these things are already here. All I ask is for a person to look at it and say, what has happened to the ability of the parent to be able to govern and raise their children? I know I sound like a Republican, but that's not it. I'm just an individual who want to see the best for children, adults, everybody in this country. And some things I may be right on, and other things, maybe should go another way. I'm not trying to dominate it. I'm just saying we got to look at this from a different. It's not.
Oh.
You give Mr. Johnson the last word.
Okay. Awesome.
Well, I just want to note here in California, we just passed a state law to stop the disgusting and hurtful practice of forced outing that does go on in schools when people try to interfere with teachers and guidance counselors and administrators and the support that they provide to LGBTQ kids and families and colleagues. And I just want to note that this is a major step forward for Californians in stopping a practice that unfortunately has become a go-to strategy by people to discredit public education and to attack teachers, parents, and students unscrupulously in our schools. Here in Los Angeles County, in Glendale, we've had a group of hate mongers that has tried to use that argument about somehow that there's some kind of gender conspiracy or that there's something going on in classrooms that's nefarious, when that is completely bogus and completely out of right field. And I wanted to say that those candidates lost in their bids for school board, and recently in Temecula, a candidate who tried to put that forward as a policy for that school district was recalled from office. And now in California, we have a state law that prohibits any effort at forced outing of students and to interfere in their lives at school. Tomorrow night, our club will be hosting a book, an author talk with the author Mike Hixenbaugh, who wrote an incredible award-winning book called They Came for the Schools, about disinformation fueled attacks on public education in Texas that incorporated that kind of conspiracy message about gender and sexuality in schools, and unfortunately has led to much acrimony and false slurs against teachers and school board members who are standing up for the freedom to learn and for inclusion in our public schools. I urge people who care about public education and stopping efforts to discredit it to read this great book, They Came for the Schools, by NBC reporter Mike Hixenbaugh. And if you're interested or have read it, to join us at the author talk with EAPD tomorrow, Wednesday, the 7th of August from 7 to 8 p.m. Just drop a line to eapd.la@gmail.com. And if you want to join in that author talk on Zoom, we're happy to get you the link to be part of that conversation. This is an important fight to protect public education, which, as many of you know, is the cornerstone of democracy. It's where people learn to get along with people from different backgrounds. It's where we learn skills of critical thinking in addition to basic skills. So protecting public education really is about protecting democracy in America.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, it is always something on a Go to Work radio show. And I thank you all for being great gentlemen, and absolutely your chivalry and teamwork. And once again, it's always a testament when you're doing great things. Some things will try to impede those great things. So I just want to say thank you so very much for your time. This has been a very important Go to Work radio show, absolutely, forever and ever and ever. And thank you all so much and so graciously. And until next time, just let me know if you need me online, and we'll make the best of it once again. And I'll go back through the video while I was having my technological challenges, and I'll put information in the comment area, and I'll be sure to share you all the link to the show. Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. Absolutely. Go to work. Go to work.